Hi, and welcome to The Traveling Fool, the show where we talk about travel destinations, the history and culture around those destinations, along with travel tips and news. I'm your host, Bob Bales, and today we're going to delve into some of the myths about how expensive it is to travel, and I'll give you a few tips. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back. Now, before we get started, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like or subscribe button on the podcast, wherever you're listening to it at. It would really help me out a little bit. Now, when we talk about travel, one of the biggest things you hear people say is, yeah, that's all nice and well and good, but it's pretty expensive and I can't afford to be doing that kind of stuff. Okay, well, we're going to get into how you don't have to spend a whole lot of money in order just to travel. Now, to do this, I'm going to start off with a little story. I'm going to tell you about my own personal experiences. Now, I grew up in South Texas. My dad was a fireman. He never made much money. I'm old, so this was a while back. Now, my dad, even though he was like an assistant fire chief, I never realized how little they paid them. They didn't really get a living wage and a decent pay raise until after I had joined the Army. So, growing up, he had 30 days vacation every year. That was one of the nice perks. And we went somewhere every single summer for 30 days, or about 28 days. And you say, well, how can you afford to do that when you don't have much money? Well, it was simple. He had a homemade camper that he had built off of a trailer frame with some friends of his. And later, he actually saved up some money and bought a camper. But we would go on road trips, and we would stay at state parks, national parks, and he would plan this trip out for months. And we would travel for 8 or 9 hours and go to a state park and stay there for 2 or 3 days and see everything around that area. Then we'd pack up and go to another state park and go camping and stay there for 2 or 3 days until we got to our destination. And we went, now I'm in South Texas. We went to New York on the East Coast. We went to California on the West Coast. I saw all kinds of things growing up, from the Mesa Verde, which is the Pueblo dwellings in Colorado, to Pikes Peak in Colorado, the Grand Canyon, the Petrified Forest, San Francisco. You name it, I got to see it. I went to Civil War battlefields and all throughout the South and historic locations, and it was great. And he made sure that we went on a good vacation every single year, and we had something to do, my brother and I. And I never really realized, I just thought we were living great. I mean, I was a kid. We're staying at a state park or national park. I get to go fishing. I get to go walking around out in the woods, and then in the afternoon, we're going to go see some historic site or go to the Grand Canyon or something. I mean, what better could you ask for when you're a kid? We never stayed at a hotel. I never remember staying at a hotel on these vacations. And very seldom did we ever eat at restaurants. We might stop at a hamburger place or a breakfast place, like an IHOP or something like that, once or twice during the trip. The rest of the time, we had a camp stove. Mom bought groceries, and we ate good at the campground. I mean, she made everything. We had steaks and hot dogs and you name it. A lot of times when we were driving, my mother would be up on the front seat making sandwiches and pass them to the back seat, and we would eat as we drove for lunch. So it never was really expensive, but I would come back to school every year, and I would, you know how kids do, everybody talks, what'd you do? And a lot of these kids just stayed home, watched TV, watched cartoons and played outside or whatever. They asked me what I did, and I said, well, I went to the Grand Canyon, or I went to New York City or whatever. And all of this without my dad ever making a whole lot of money. So it can be done. And even today it can be done. How do I know that? I'm living proof of it. I've been doing it for years. So here's a few tips. First, find out what you really want to do on vacation. And a lot of this has been ruined by social media and social media influencers. You look at all these pretty pictures, you go, oh my God, that's so beautiful. How could I ever afford to go there? Well, chances are that social media person probably didn't pay to go there either. They got paid to go there and take photos. And depending on how many followers you get, the more money you get paid. And as we have all come to know, social media does not necessarily tell you a true picture of what is there. I'm guilty of it too. When I go somewhere and I'm taking photos for a tourism board or for my blog or whatever, I want to get the absolute best shot. And to do that, sometimes you have to wake up really early in the morning when there's no crowds, or you have to stand there and wait for 15 minutes for people to get out of the way so you can get the really nice shot without 400 people standing in your photo. But that may not be the actual truth. I try to get a really nice shot, but also not one that is distorted in the fact that that's not actually what the place looks like. Because there's nothing more frustrating than seeing something really pretty on social media and go, I got to go see this place. So you get there, and it is nothing like what is portrayed. So that's the first thing. Don't get your hopes up from something on social media and plan to go there. Figure out what you want to go on your trip for. And you're going to find out that probably the most expensive part of that trip is going to be, especially if you're traveling out of the country, is going to be the air travel or the hotel. So there's a couple of ways you can do this to reduce the air travel costs. And I'm going to give you one or two just little quick tips. There are sites on the internet that they make a living out of showing you the lowest fares. One of them is Matt's Flights, Matts. He's got a great site. You can sign up for free and get their free alerts. Or you can pay him a yearly fee and he'll give you the extra special bonus alerts. And all that means is you're going to get tailored specifically to you. And he'll shoot you out deals all the time. If I tell him, okay, I want my home base to be Houston, Texas, I'm going to fly out of Intercontinental Airport. Well, I'll get alerts for, okay, Delta just dropped their fare from Houston to Miami. You can get a flight on there for $118. And here he tells you how to book it and everything else and what dates it's open. And there's some other flights, some other websites out there also on the internet that you can sign up for that will alert you to low price fares. So that's one way. The other way is to sign up for the airline itself, especially, and they will alert you. Sign up for their alerts. But if you really want to use something like miles or loyalty miles for the airlines, there's a real quick way to do it if you plan 6 months in advance. And one is to get you a credit card. Now, you got to hear me out here. I've got a couple of credit cards for airlines, and you can get a Chase credit card, which gives you miles and points. You can get other branded credit cards from the airlines themselves, from Alaska Air to Delta to United to you name it. And there's websites that tell you all about the best credit cards to get. But here's the thing. If you get the credit card that's going to give you a massive sign-up bonus, and they change all the time. A lot of them are like 50,000 mile sign-up bonus if you spend this much in this many months or this over this period of time. Well, instead of those 50,000, a couple of times a year, that'll bump it up and go, well, we're going to give you 80,000 to sign up. Well, that's what you want to sign up for it. So look at the best sign-ups that you can possibly get. And normally it's, we will give you 50 or 60 or 70 or 80,000 miles in addition to what you earn if you spend $3,000 over the next 3 months or $4,000 over the next 3 months. And you're like, ooh, I don't know if I want to put that much on a credit card. Do it. Well, here's the trick. And I do this every single month, and my miles just keep going up. You get miles by spending your credit card or using it for dining, for anything. And some miles or more. They'll say, okay, well, if you dine out, you get 2 times the miles. I use my credit card for the things that I buy anyway. Every single month, whether it's groceries, gasoline, whatever it is. my cigars, which, yeah, I do buy a lot of cigars. But that's where my credit card goes to. And then every month I get my statement, and every month I pay off my credit card bill. So instead of using my debit card or getting cash out the bank and using cash to go buy groceries or whatever the case is, the money sits in the bank. I'm going to spend it anyway, but I'm going to use my credit card to spend it. And I don't go crazy. I don't go, buy all kinds of stuff on credit just because I have the credit card. I use it for what I'm going to spend anyway. And at the end of every month, I pay it off so there's no interest. And that's how you can rack up a lot of points. And you would be surprised. You're going to spend $1,500 or $2,000 a month just on gas, groceries, odds and ends. If you think about it, that's probably what you're spending, if not more. And if you do that for 2 or 3 months, then boom, now you've got 50, 60, 70, 80,000 miles in addition to what you put on your credit card. Now, those 80,000 or 60,000 miles is enough to get you a round-trip airfare to a lot of places. So that's one way to easily do it over a period of 2 or 3 months. Now, the other thing is, if you're traveling in the States and you're not going overseas, well, do a road trip. It may take you a little longer to get there, but I really like road trips because you can stop along the way, you can see things, you can explore, and you'll discover all kinds of stuff you would have never known was there had you just jumped on a plane and flew over there. Take the time to hit the highways and little back roads and stuff, and you'll have a blast. You will discover more things than you could ever think of. Just keep your eyes open and stop at interesting places. Build in a day or two to get there and a day or two to get back, and there you have it. Now you're going to say, well, gas is expensive, idiot. How do you expect me to use all that gas money? Well, yeah, but it's not as expensive as flying. And 2, there are apps like Gas Buddy and a couple of others that will show you the cheapest gasoline around. You just open up the app, tap on the little map, and it'll say, well, here's all the places around here that are selling gasoline at all the gas stations, and here's what it is. And you go, oh, well, if I go 2 miles down this road instead of stopping at the one on the highway, I can get it 30 cents cheaper. I think I'll just drive the 2 miles, get gas, and then come back to the highway and keep going. And a lot of people say, well, what's 10 cents or 12 cents a gallon cheaper if it's 5 miles away? Well, when you're filling up the tank and you're on a road trip, it makes a big difference. Now, I've had the opportunity to travel to a lot of countries and a lot of places in the States, and sometimes I was traveling by myself, and sometimes I was traveling with my entire family, and sometimes it was just me and the wife. And me and my wife have totally different ideas about vacations and travel. She wants to go to someplace really nice and relax. And I understand that. I don't want to do that. But I have on many occasions. And I've stayed at really, really nice hotels and resorts and all-inclusives that have like 3 restaurants or 4 restaurants at the place. And I've stayed at just all kinds of really nice places. However, when I travel by myself, I don't care where I stay as long as it meets 2 criteria. It's in a safe location in the town. I don't want to have to walk outside the front door and trip over crackheads, be in an area that has muggings and shootings 24 hours a day. And that's anywhere in the world. So I look for a safe location in town. And does the place I'm staying at have hot water and electricity? That's it. I don't care. And I've stayed at some really, really small places and really places that most people would say, I'm not staying there. That's a dump. Well, as long as it's clean, I don't care. I'll give you an example. I worked overseas for many years, and I could not always come back to the United States on my time off because of the way the tax codes are written. You have to be out of the States so many days a year in order to take advantage of the tax codes. So one time I went to Prague for 30 days. I couldn't come back to the States, and so the wife flew over and met me in Prague. And we stayed at this really nice hotel right off of the square in Prague, next to the Charles Bridge and across the river from the castle. And it was beautiful. And the whole area, you're right in the tourist area, and it was really, really nice. And she stayed there for a few days, about a week or so, and then she flew back to the States. Well, I still had 3 weeks to go in Prague. Well, the first thing I did after she got on a plane and went home is I checked out of that hotel, and I found a place that was about, I'm going to say, a 10-minute trolley, or, it's not a subway, it's more of a cable car trolley ride to the middle of town. I went to the outskirts of the town, and I found a place, and it was dirt cheap, and it was a large room, even had a little balcony I could walk out on. It was clean, and the water was hot, and it was 100 yards or less from the station that you caught the little trolley or cable car down to the center of town. And that's where I stayed for the next 2.5, 3 weeks, because every morning I would just get up, walk across the street to the trolley, and go downtown and explore, or go to the train station and go to the next town over or whatever. I wasn't spending any time at the hotel. I don't care what the hotel looks like. I've done the same thing in London. I stayed there for a week one time at a hotel where it was so tiny. I mean, tiny, tiny, tiny. It had a double bed that was up against the wall, and when you sat on the edge of the bed, I swear there was like 2 feet between the edge of the bed and the wall. And there was just enough room in there for the bed. That was it. And if you wanted to go and use the bathroom and everything, you could open the door and the sink was there, but you couldn't get to the toilet. So you had to open the door, stand on top of the toilet in a way to open the door fully in order just to use it and get to the shower. It was a acrobatic feat, but I didn't care. I stayed there for 6 days. Every morning at 6 o'clock, I woke up, got dressed, and headed out the door. I would come back around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, go to sleep. I don't care what the hotel looks like. It had electricity. The water was hot. That's all I cared about. And it was clean and in a safe area. And you can save a lot of money just on accommodations. When I was a kid, like I said, we stayed at campgrounds. You took a trailer and stayed at a campground or stayed in a cabin, and you could stay there for fairly cheap and just get in the car and drive around and see all the sights during the day. So there's all kinds of ways to reduce the cost of the travel. For me, it's the experience while I'm there. It's not the hotel. But there are a few occasions where, especially if the wife is traveling with me, it's got to be the hotel. And that's when you go to the really nice hotels, and there's a few ways to get some discounts and ensure you get the best prices there as well. So I guess what it amounts to is, if you really want to travel, don't let anybody influence you into thinking that you've got to have a lot of money to do it. You really don't. Yes, if you want to take a cruise around the world, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you want to travel to Nepal and climb Mount Everest, yeah, it's going to cost you some money. But you can go to places and experience these places without having to spend a ton of money. Whether it's in the States, whether it's traveling around your state to places that you haven't visited, or even have visited and enjoy. Whether it's taking a road trip for a week and traveling up the eastern seaboard, or traveling across Texas, which that's a road trip in itself. It's a big state. There's a lot of things you can do to enjoy and experience your travel destinations without spending a ton of money. And I hope you do, because I tell you about it, I've always loved traveling. I love history, so I love traveling to locations where history took place. And I love seeing new things and experiencing new things and learning about the culture, the destination itself, and the people, what happened there throughout history. And it all started because my dad, the fireman, decided he was going to travel and see the country and let his kids experience things. And that's where I got my love of travel, and I've done it my entire life. I don't care whether it's exploring some little country town in Texas. And yes, I have been to Nepal a couple of times. It's a beautiful country. Or Asia, or going to Africa, or going to South America, or going to the Caribbean, anywhere. Don't let just the destination hotel play a part of where you're going. You can always find a place to stay if you want to go and travel and see what's there. And don't let the airfare scare you. There's ways to get cheaper airfares. Or if you're in the States, just take the road trip. But anyway, that's my advice for this episode. And next time, we're going to talk about a specific destination, I think. I've got a couple of podcasts coming up where we talk about destinations, talk about something really weird that happened at one destination. I think you'll like that one. And just a few more on travel tips and things like that. I really appreciate you listening. If you can, hit that like or subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And if you get a chance, check out the blog, travelingfool.com. You can check all the past episodes there. And you can read some of the articles on some of the destinations I've been to over the years. I try to give you some useful information. But that's it for this episode. And until next time, safe travels.